What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Roman's Creative Academy. I'm Jay.
And I'm Mike.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about something that is loosely thrown around in the industry, and that is joint ventures. We're going to dive deep today into what that means and why it's getting confused so much.
Absolutely. So let's just start off with what is a joint venture, right? Because everybody says, oh, you're trying to JV, do this. Joint venture is, in its simplest form, two parties, two individuals, it could be two companies, whatever it may be, coming together and partnering in a real estate transaction, whether it's a purchase or it's in the wholesaling side of the industry. And we're going to get into both.
Yep. So let's start off with the wholesaling side of things.
Yep.
What is JVing on that side?
Absolutely. So in the wholesaling industry, JVing is something that a lot of people do. And it can be done the right way and it can be done the wrong way. The right way to JV in the wholesaling industry is that two parties come together. One is holding their weight, the other is holding their weight in the deal. There's legal paperwork put together, and they both get paid out at closing through the title company, right? Whether that's a 50-50 split of the assignment fee, 60-40, 70-30, whatever you guys or you decide with your JV partner that works and makes everybody happy. Typically in a joint venture or JV transaction with wholesaling, there's one party that brings the deal, and there's one party that brings the buyer, right? And typically, the way that me and Jay do it is we typically just split it 50-50, just because what's fair is fair. Everybody's doing equal amount of work, and we actually work with somebody who we JV with very often, and we do exactly that. They bring the buyer, we sign a joint venture form so we're all safe. All the expectations are set up front about what everybody gets paid and when they get paid. And that is the proper way to do a joint venture in wholesaling.
So if you're interested in JVing with us for whatever reason, the link is going to be below. Check it out. Reach out to us. We'd be happy to do so. I just want to put a disclaimer out there that we do not JV to teach people. We JV to get the deal done.
And make everybody money.
Correct. And help the seller, of course. Now, I want to ask this question because we come across this a lot. Is what's the difference between joint venture or JVing and daisy chaining?
And this is specifically in the wholesaling industry. So the wholesaling industry gets a bad rap because people do not take it seriously in terms of like business etiquette. That's the word that I was looking for. Business etiquette and having an ethically sound business model, right? So because wholesaling is typically the first stop on the totem pole into becoming a real estate investor, you get a lot of new people coming in who don't understand these concepts just yet, right? For seasoned, experienced investors who also wholesale, we all know that we have to have a common ground. We have to have legal paperwork. We have to ask each other, and we have to tell each other, and we all have that common ground knowledge of what's right and what's wrong in that space. Where with daisy chaining, this is typically, we see it all the time. And if anybody is ever trying to daisy chain your deal, what that means is that they will come to you and they will say, hey, Mike, hey, Jay, I would like to buy your deal. Sure, no problem. They go, they lock up the deal. Then they go turn around to their neighbor and upcharge it or upsell it to that person so that they're technically the middleman, right? So they're daisy chaining it. They're passing the deal down the line without ever telling you, right?
I want to put in there that sometimes, and we've come across this, is where the person, the investor that has the deal under contract is daisy chained without them even knowing.
Yes.
So they'll take someone else, also an investor, will take the details of the deal and start marketing it out there without having permission from the person who actually has it under contract.
Yep.
Don't do that.
This is not to scare you guys, or it's not to like give you a lecture. But like this just happened to me and Jay on the deal that we're doing in Texas right now, we had the buyer that we're using texted me and Jay and was like, "Hey, do you work with so and so?" And we said, "No, we don't. Why?" And they were like, "Well, this person is saying that it's their deal, and they'd like to assign it." And he was like, "But I'm talking with you, so I'm confused." So that right there is what typically a daisy chainer will do, is they will take your deal that you worked hard for and that you paid for. They will take the details, try and go sell it. And if they do sell it, they'll come back to you and say, "Hey, I found somebody," and then they mark it up for themselves, and then they mark it up for you. And instead of just being honest and coming forward, which is what a joint venture is all about. With daisy chaining, there is no legal paperwork with the partnership. It's just passing the baton down the line.
That's exactly what I was going to get into, and you just mentioned it, is that with business etiquette there is none. If you just take the deal and start marketing it, that doesn't look good. Do you think that we're going to want to work with you in the future because you were dishonest and you just did it without asking, without permission?
Yep.
Absolutely not.
Yep. So this is why we teach business etiquette heavily to our students, and this is why we follow our ethical guidelines that we have within our own business, right? So that we always have a strong reputation. People want to come to us, they want to work with us, and buyers enjoy working with us because we make it fair for everybody and we keep it even keel playing ground, right? That's the biggest thing. And in any type of partnership where you don't own that business with that person, it is two entities coming together. That relationship needs to be squeaky clean and as open and communicative as possible.
Yep. So now I want to switch gears kind of towards the rental portfolio side of things, where if you are raising private capital and you are going into a joint venture, there is two main joint venture types within the rental portfolio space. So Mike, can you tell us about those two?
Yep. When acquiring a property and you're not doing it yourself, right, and you're bringing in a partner or a JV partner, right, that's all a joint venture is. It's just a partnership. There is a capital partner and an equity partner. The difference between the two is typically a capital partner is just somebody that is bringing the capital, and their money is secured by a mortgage, a deed of trust, a note, and they're silent, right? They just gave you their money, they're collecting their interest on that, and they're the person that came in with the capital for the deal. But they're kind of off to the side, and they're not on the deed to the house, right? Or the property, whatever it may be. An equity partner is somebody who comes in and buys that property with you, and you guys have set roles. Maybe you split the cash flow 50-50, or maybe one person gets the cash flow, but if it sells down the road, you split the proceeds X, Y, and Z percentage, right?
Which brings us to our next point, and that is, what are 3 action steps that you should always take when considering doing a joint venture with someone, whether that's in the wholesaling space or with your rental portfolio? And number 1, that is setting expectations of what is happening, right? Of who's doing what, what's going to happen when, stuff like that. Number 2, set roles and responsibilities between each other, right? If you are a silent partner, then you are a silent partner, but you could be a part of the deal in terms of being on the deed. That is an option.
Yep.
But those are the terms that you guys agree upon. And then who's going to be doing all of the property management? Who's going to be, paying those expenses? What does that look like when you sell? Stuff like that. Those are all things that need to get ironed out so that if those things actually do happen, you know what's going to happen next. And so in that situation, typically it's with an LLC that you create with that joint venture, and then the operating agreement is what identifies those things, right?
Yep. And the biggest thing is that when you have a joint venture or a partnership, you need to be open. You need to communicate, and you should set these rules, regulations, and expectations verbally, and then from making them verbal, put them in the paperwork that Jay's talking about, so it's concrete and cement. Because up front, you guys may work very well together. 2 months, 5 years, 10 years down the line, you may not anymore. There may be a disagreement, but you're dealing with hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars worth of property, right? You cannot just have somebody walk away, right? The guidelines in that paperwork will say what to do, when to do it.
And lastly is talk about when the shit hits the fan, right? If things don't go well, if the house doesn't sell, for the amount that's owed, if there's a loss, who takes the loss, all those things need to be talked about when getting into a joint venture with someone.
Yep. Or even at the simplest form, if one person wants to walk away, how do they get out of the deal and how is it fair for everybody, right? So with that being said, joint venture partnerships range from the very low level stuff when it comes to wholesaling, where you guys are just working together to make a quick buck, all the way up to owning millions in dollars of real estate and having a partnership. All a joint venture is a partnership agreement. That is the simplest form of somebody getting into business with another individual or company.
Now, a question we get asked a lot is, Mike J, how do I know if this person that I'm looking to joint venture with is the right fit, if we are the right fit for each other? And I'm going to be the first one to say, ladies, you know what I mean by test drive the car, right? The only way to know if it is a good relationship is if you try.
Yep, exactly. And there's other warning signs and things of that nature. So with wholesaling, you guys are just making a quick buck together. You're in, you're out, you're done. So as long as the paperwork is solid, the title company's solid, and the buyer or the deal that each party brings is good, it's easy. It's when you start buying a physical property and closing on it together and somebody has money into the deal or an equity or a stake, that's when you need to give it a test ride. But you need to have that almost relationship discovery building with that person. Maybe go to lunch, maybe have some phone calls, get to know each other, see if you guys can jive on a personal level outside of the business level.
How's your communication skills? It's the biggest one. It's an important one.
Yep. So imagine, you have an eviction going on. It's a very stressful time on a rental, and you JV'd on that deal, or you own that house with somebody else, right? How are you guys going to communicate together? Are you going to make it happen, or are you guys going to point fingers at each other and call it a day?
So with that being said, if this video sparked any questions for you guys, please visit www.romanscreativeacademy.com/ask and submit your questions to us. We'd be more than happy to get those answered for you, and we will. So please check it out.
Any questions that you have in terms of creative financing, real estate, investing, businesses, relationship, whatever it may be, submit them there. And when you submit them to that link, which is going to be in the description, me and Jay are going to get those questions answered for you live. And we will be telling you when that will be, and we're going to make it happen for you. So please make sure you answer those questions. Drop them in there. As soon as you do, we get a notification, and we promise you we'll get it answered.
Are you sure you want them asking questions about personal? I'm just kidding.
It depends. I mean, if you're going to ask me what kind of beer I like, I could tell you.
But guys, if you loved this video, please make sure you like it, comment,
and subscribe.
See you next week. Bye.